In January, Carlos Alcaraz walked onto Rod Laver Arena and beat Novak Djokovic in a Grand Slam final. He was 22 years old. That win gave him the Australian Open, the one major that had never had his name on it, and with it, the career Grand Slam. All four. Youngest man in the history of the sport to do it. He then went to Doha and won that too. 12 matches into the season, he had not lost a single one. The conversation at that point wasn't can he, it was how many. It is now the third week of July. Wimbledon has been won by somebody else. Roland Garros has been won by somebody else. He is not the world number one, he has not hit a competitive ball since the middle of April, and he has not played a match at either of the last two Grand Slams on Earth. So, what actually happened to Carlos Alcaraz? I want to be precise about this, because there's a lazy version of this story going around, and it's wrong. This isn't a decline, it isn't a slump. It's something stranger than that, and I think it tells you something genuinely uncomfortable about how sport works. Let's get into it.
Important for me to accomplish the career Grand Slam. But right now, get it? I have 3 more to have
To understand how far this fell, you have to understand how high it was standing. Rewind to December. Alcaraz does something almost nobody saw coming. He parts ways with Juan Carlos Ferrero. Not a hitting partner, not a fitness guy, the man who had shaped him since he was a kid, the voice in the corner for every single thing he'd ever won. That's not a small move. That's a player saying, out loud, that the version of him that won 6 majors isn't the version he wants to be.
Chapter of life, there is a time that has to be end, and we both are still friends, good relationship, and but we just decided like this.
And then the new version showed up in Melbourne, and it was terrifying. Because here's what he'd fixed. For years, the knock on Alcaraz, the only real one, was the serve. Brilliant everywhere, occasionally leaky in the one place you can't be. He came back holding over 90% of his service games, and it wasn't one enormous new weapon. More first serves landing, more points won behind the first, more won behind the second. More aces, every single number nudged up at once, which is the scariest thing a great player can do because there's nothing there to take away from him. Semifinals reached without dropping a set. Djokovic beaten in the final. Career Grand Slam completed at 22. Nobody watching that had any reason to think the year was about to stop. The first cracks are so small you'd miss them. Indian Wells. He loses a semi-final to Daniil Medvedev. Fine. These things happen, it's one match, the streak had to end somewhere. Miami, 2 weeks later, 3rd round, Sebastian Korda, gone. Still not alarming on its own. But the shape of it was odd. This wasn't a man getting outplayed by better tennis. It was a man whose timing had gone slightly soft. A beat late on balls he normally arrives at early. Then, Monte Carlo. The final. Jannik Sinner on the other side of the net, and the world #1 ranking sitting on the outcome. Sinner takes it. Sinner takes the ranking back with it, and that, at the time, is what everybody wrote about. The rivalry, the pendulum, the clay season loading up, Roland Garros waiting, the two of them about to spend another summer taking turns.
Io e Carlos in questo momento siamo molto vicini, può cambiare da una settimana all'altra. Ci sono 2 grandi slam da giocare, c'è Parigi, c'è Londra.
Nobody was looking at the wrist. April the 14th, Barcelona, the opening rounds. A match nobody in the world would have circled on a calendar. And his right wrist stops. The diagnosis comes back as severe tenosynovitis, inflammation in the tendon sheath, in the joint that does everything. Every forehand, every whipped pass, every one of those absurd flicked drop shots that made him famous at 19. Here's the part that should have told us how bad it was. The speed of the withdrawals. Madrid, gone. Rome, gone. Then, Roland Garros, a title he was defending, gone. Queens, gone. Wimbledon, gone. Players do not surrender 2 Grand Slams they might win. Not at 23. Not in a career where those weeks are the only currency that counts. When a team pulls a player out of the French Open and Wimbledon inside a few weeks, they are no longer managing an injury. They're protecting a career. And so the season went on without him. Alexander Zverev, 29, a man who had spent 6 years wearing the worst label in the sport, best player never to win one, finally won Roland Garros. He didn't have to play Alcaraz to do it. Then Sinner defended Wimbledon, beating Zverev in 4 sets on center court, and the top of the sport quietly reorganized itself around the 2 men who were actually there. Alcaraz slid to number 3 in the world without losing a match to get there.
We hope that Carlos is coming back as well, because tennis needs him.
Now this is where it gets genuinely strange and where I think the story stops being about a wrist. Because for the last month, the entire tennis world has been reading a man's Instagram like it's a medical chart. He posts a clip of himself back on a practice court. Good news. Except people freeze frame it and they're strapping on the wrist. He's pushing the ball. Gently. Boris Becker looks at the footage and doesn't sound convinced. Analysts start doing the arithmetic on how much load that wrist would need to take before it could survive best of 5 in New York, and the numbers don't work.
I do believe he's gonna come back stronger than before, and but injury is always tough, especially wrist.
Then a Spanish report says the wrist is completely healed. Full clearance. Cincinnati in August as the comeback. Then he's not on the Montreal entry list, which pushes everything later again.
I made 3 surgeries in my left wrist, and I was close to quit this sport.
So you have 2 versions of Carlos Alcaraz running side by side right now. In one, he's fine. He's about a month from a hard court swing and a US Open defense. In the other, he's a player at the beginning of a very long road who might not be right again this calendar year. And nobody outside about 6 people actually knows which one is true. Meanwhile, and I love this detail, he spent last Sunday in New Jersey at a World Cup final, carrying a trophy onto the pitch while Spain won the thing. The freest summer of his life, according to the Spanish press. A 23-year-old with no tournaments, no ranking points to chase, and nothing to do but watch other people win. By the time he plays again, it will have been roughly 125 days since his last official point. Here's what I actually think this is about, and it isn't tennis. We treat great careers like they're a line. Up, then flat, then down, in that order, at a speed we can see coming. We say things like he has 10 years of this ahead of him, as though that's a fact and not a guess. We look at a 22-year-old completing the career Grand Slam, and we quietly file the next decade away as already spent. But careers aren't lines. They're a series of things that didn't happen to go wrong yet. Alcaraz did nothing to deserve this. He didn't get old. He didn't lose his nerve. Didn't get found out, didn't fall off. He was, by every available measurement, playing the best tennis of his life. And a tendon in one wrist erased half a season anyway. That's the part we're bad at holding in our heads. Dominance isn't owned. It's rented on terms nobody shows you, and it can be revoked in the second round of a tournament nobody was watching. The scoreboard says he lost 4 months. What he actually lost was the assumption that there would always be more. So, what happened to Carlos Alcaraz? He got better, won a major, completed history, and then his body handed him a bill he had no way of predicting. That's it. There's no scandal, no collapse, no crisis of confidence, just the least dramatic and most brutal thing that happens in professional sport. And here's the question I honestly can't answer. When he comes back, and he will come back, is he the same player? Because a wrist isn't a knee. A wrist is feel. It's the thing that lets him hit shots that no one else on tour attempts. If 95% of it returns, he's still one of the best players alive. He's just not the one who did that to Djokovic in January. So tell me in the comments, does Alcaraz win another Grand Slam within the next 18 months? Or has this year quietly taken something from him that doesn't come back? Be honest. I've got a feeling it's going to get interesting down there. And if you enjoyed this, a like genuinely helps the channel more than you'd think. Subscribe for more tennis deep dives like this one. and I'll see you in the next video.